Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Musically Mindful, a show where I sit down with your favorite musicians, artists, and even some of your friends to discuss mental health within the music scene. My name is Mike Renzetti, and I'm thrilled to have another magical guest with me this week. It's our first real conversation, allowing me to pick his brain, get to know each other after so many years of seeing him on stage. He's a battle tested touring musician, songwriter, festival founder, and CEO with a unique musical style all his own. You may recognize him as lead guitarist and vocalist from the Colorado based analog dance neo jam quartet, the Magic Beans. Fresh off the heels of a phenomenal after party tour all over the East Coast with Pigeons, Frasco Dogs, please help me welcome to the show, Scott Hachey.
Hey, happy to be here, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to hopefully getting in touch with you to do something. Like I said, I've been seeing you for a long time. I've been watching the trajectory of the Beans for many, many years now. And we've always, I've seen you here and there, and we've kind of been in similar circles and similar channels, but just never actually got to meet. So I'm
Yeah,
actually really looking forward to picking your brain and seeing what you think about mental health.
awesome. Likewise, man. You seem like an interesting person. Let's get to know each other.
So with that, let's just jump right in. So when I say mental health, what exactly does that mean to you?
Mental health. I guess the state of well-being of your brain, of your inner monologue. How you treat yourself internally and outwardly. And I think and it's as much psychological as biological. I feel like kind of personally too. So I think they're like it's physiological and psychological. So it's a unique form of health, whereas like with your body's health, it's mainly just tied to the food you eat and maybe the workout you put in or whatever. Whereas the mental health is so much more complex.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about mental health, there's so many different facets of it, right? Like you said, there's the psychological, the biological, health is wealth, and how you treat your body, is it affects how you treat your mind. And there's so many different aspects of life that people go through that we all have a journey, and it all kind of starts within us, but it really, you might not start your mental health journey until something happens that kind of makes you. For a
Mhm.
lot of people, I feel like recently it was really the pandemic that made a lot of people dig in. And when you kind of just have to sit with yourself and you have to face something that's out of your control, you have to learn to let go of exactly what you can't control, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you're totally right. I think that was a huge moment for lots of people who you know had things going a certain way, and now all of a sudden they're not going that way, or the rug pulled out from under them on career wise, relationship, whatever you're pursuing in general, momentum that you seem to have gathered, in your course towards whatever your dreams are, and so yeah, I think there's a lot. That was a huge point where probably a lot of people confronted their mental health for the first time, and certainly for me it was. And it also kind of coincided with me turning 30 that year, so I think there's a lot of ending of my 20s kind of reflection going on. What stage am I moving into now? And trying to be proactive about mental health, as well as do some cleanup probably from my 20s of my mental
I,
health.
it's funny. I'm on that precipice as we speak. I turned 30 in September this year, and I'm in such a similar state of, okay, where have I been? Where am I? Where am I going? And just trying to navigate and undo a lot a lot of that damage in reality. But at the same time, all of those years, the experiences and places I've been, people I've interacted with, on the precipice of 30, it kind of makes you who you are, and they're all different aspects of the person that you become and that you kind of want to take into your 30s. So I'm kind of enjoying, looking back on the guy that I was and realizing that he is still me, he's still within me, maybe, a bit more crispy upstairs than he used to be and what have you. But I find that there's a beautiful symbiotic relationship when you kind of compare mental health with music in that way. Is as you venture through your musical journey, your life kind of ebbs and flows, maybe not exactly the same way, but in a beautiful tandem.
Oh yeah, usually not in the same way. I'd go as far as to say that like sometimes when people are having the most success career-wise, they might be having their biggest struggles on a personal level. So it definitely doesn't always line up. So, and you're totally right. And yeah, there is that just like that link and I get it a lot, because we've been a band for a while. We started in college, before we were people, like 19 years old, and people would be like, wow, you guys have grown so much as a band, like you sound so much better, tighter, all these things. And I'm like, I've grown as a person. Like
Right, right,
you used
right.
to see a 20-year-old, I wouldn't even call him a young man. I'd call him a child on stage, honestly. And like, so, it really, the light isn't shown on like that enough, that these musicians are growing as people, as well as musicians, and like shedding their licks, but they're also turning into different people, like, and that's affecting their playing, that's affecting the dynamic between the bands, and it's moving your favorite bands into different phases of their life, and the music, and it shows. I think like probably some of the best years from Biscuits and Fish and all these bands are probably when they were firing on some of their best mental health, or group energy. You know what I mean? Maybe there's some outliers where they hated each other and were making their best music, but I'd go as far as to say that like when those things were locking up, so are the music. And so it is a journey in tandem, man. That's like the journey of being a band. That's like the struggle, and the interpersonal dynamics. And as you get older, and everyone's cushy edges become a lot harder, things that you were okay, oh, sure, I sleep on the floor here. And now some people have some more rules for themselves or boundaries for themselves. And oh, you can't talk to me. We're starting to set boundaries, that weren't set before. And yeah, so it's just like growing up together as a band, growing up as an individual, and yeah. And then the music.
Yeah,
That's
it
the best
just,
part.
can't forget about that.
Can't forget about that.
But it's funny, exactly like you said. It's a part of growing up. It's a part of going through the different phases of your life, and musically too. It's fun. Music has a funny way of, the right music or the wrong music might find you at a pivotal time in your life. Something typically, when we all kind of start out, we have our parents' influences and we don't want to listen to what they are into because it's not the cool thing. And then if you have an older sibling, like like my older sister was very into Broadway and theater stuff, but she was also a fish head. So I was like, okay, well, that's something to, whatever that is, seems kind of cool. And
Yeah.
my parents don't really love that. So like, let's see what's up with that. I'm having fun listening to Linkin Park and Wu-Tang, but let's navigate. Um, so in terms of, from a mental health perspective, and kind of talking about that journey itself, for you personally, when did music kind of become the thing? Like when did it become something interpersonal for you? And just what has your relationship been from the start with music?
Oh wow, that's a good question, man. I I didn't grow up in a musical family. It certainly wasn't passed down to me by my dad or anything. There was no guitar in my house or anything. My parents are music listeners. I wouldn't consider them music lovers. You know what I mean? My dad was definitely spinning Van Morrison and the Eagles and CCR, and like I grew up on classic rock, and then kind of parlayed that into Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin early. I was like, I like that little heavier stuff, maybe some trippy stuff. And then but I think from an early age, music really clicked with me. Like it just was, I was always drawn to it. Like I'm locked in. I have like weird, like if I'm in a store, I can only hear the music. If I'm in a room and people are talking, I can only hear the music. It's in a, my brain is like super magnetic towards music. So that's like what drawed me to it. Pretty much as soon I heard Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing, and I decided I wanted to play guitar. I was like, I want one of those. This is the coolest sounding thing. And my dad got me a guitar, and that's kind of where my journey was. And they were super supportive of it. and and for me, I've always, been a songwriter. I guess that was just like the first thing I started doing with the instrument. Is I really just wanted to start writing songs. I think some people start to shred, some people start to do different things, whatever, play metal. That's what a lot of my friends were doing. I was like trying to learn, different chord shapes and neck movement and just write songs. So I've always kind of had like an emotional connection with music in that way, where it's been part of my therapy and my inner monologue since the beginning. So yeah, and then but it was never a career goal for me until I got to college, and I was working at the Fox Theater as an intern, basically just for free tickets, and
Yeah.
and then started jamming with just people around, and just caught the bug, and then moved in with some musicians, including Casey and some of the early members of the Beans, and we just kind of started going as a college band, as many jam bands do, and playing house parties, and maybe drugs were involved. I won't get into that. And then there's that whole era, and then I graduated from school, and we had this fan base, and we were bringing, and I was like, I just kind of want to see this through. What a unique experience I find myself in. We have some momentum, and I want to give it a go. And then here we are, freaking 10 years later, and I'm still doing it.
And doing it well. I'll say that for
Oh,
sure.
thanks.
Um, yeah, that's super interesting that songwriting kind of was the initial, having a connectivity to music from a personal place. Because we all have, comfort music. We all, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are the people that are like, I just flip on the radio, but like, next. Um,
You're not part of this combo.
right, exactly. But music is a real personal enterprise in terms of what triggers good things in you, what triggers bad things in you. So for songwriting to be the initial thing that really moved you and what you wanted to pursue within music itself, I feel like, as you said, some people go the route of wanting to learn how to shred first because they heard Jimi Hendrix and they're like, well, I want to do that, or whatever, insert influence here, whatever it may be. So something that I find really interesting with a lot of people that I've talked to thus far that are songwriters like yourself, obviously, any type of creation is generally pretty cathartic, and it really, can help you navigate a lot of personal things too. So in the spirit of us breaking down mental health within music, what
Mhm.
exactly does songwriting give you from a personal place?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, songwriting before I started doing actual therapy, I think was the closest thing I had to therapy in my life. And the style of songwriting I like to do is definitely like a like flow state. And I try to, a long time ago, I tried to find like what my style was, and I used to obsess over songs. And then I kind of thought, I got really into like Ween and some of their tactics, and I just felt like there's something magically to letting things like come from you. And if you can keep a songwriting session to one session, like it might be just a little bit more of a authentic snapshot of where you were at that moment. Even if you don't believe it the same tomorrow, it's kind of hard to tap into that. What am I trying to say? Oh, I couldn't finish what I'm trying to say, let me pick it up tomorrow, sort of thing. So years ago I tried to just get into that mindset of just writing to write, and not everything's going to make it on stage, not everything's going to make it into a song, and being okay with that. So yeah, a lot of the songwriting process for me is kind of journaling in a way when I'm writing lyrics. um where I'm just getting shit out. Sometimes it's just like shit that like my mind just is telling me, and that's what the craziest stuff. Sometimes like I'll just write a song and it'll fall out of me or whatever they say, and like it really does, and then it's like a letter from my subconscious of like, this is how you feel, and I almost couldn't even like tell properly orchestrate it to myself. And then I read these lyrics and I'm like, what am I trying to tell myself? And that's what a lot of my songs are, is like lessons for me to remember, and mantras for every day, and I'll sing them on. Sometimes I'll be feeling a certain way, maybe the same way I felt when I wrote the song, and then I'll sing the song on stage and literally laugh to myself because I'm just like, wow, here's a lesson you literally wrote to yourself 6 years ago. Maybe you should try to just practice that again. And so that's what I love about songwriting, and so yeah, they're just kind of wrapped up for me.
Well, one thing that's really cool is, and I feel like with a lot of music and a lot of bands kind of feel the way of like albums are snapshots of where you were at a time. And in the same way with songwriting, a certain lyric can be a piece of somewhere that you were. And in years on stage, how many years you've been playing certain songs, they kind of come back. So it's a
Oh yeah.
beautiful thing about how, like with journaling, once you write it, you have to be aware of it, and you can't take it back. You can't
Uh-huh.
refute it. You can't be like, that wasn't something that I thought. That
Uh-huh.
wasn't something that I felt. And if it comes around again and teaches you year after year after year, or makes you say, you know what, I have to dust that one off because I might need that right now.
Yeah.
And I think music has a really, really cool way of transporting you to a pocket in time. And
Absolutely.
I really, from a listener perspective, lyrics are the thing that I connect to the most. Don't get me wrong, we all love a groove, or a good machine gun tray, or whatever you're into, whether it be a bluegrass act or a jam band, or whatever Khruangbin decides they want to be. Like whatever microcosm of music you're in, I think lyrics are a really important thing. And something that you said within that was how, I mean, like I said, it's journaling and
Yes.
getting things out.
Yes.
So what exactly are things that music has helped you get out? Has it really ever, is there ever anything really pivotal in your life that you've been able to use writing as a tool to work through?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Breakups, you know, self-esteem issues, anxiety I struggled with, pressure, um, just the unsurety of things. That's certainly something that like goes in my mind quite a bit. And that's where I feel like in particular the daily reminder, or whatever, the weekly reminder of playing that song is so healthy, because I that's something I just feel like I'll probably always be unsure, and it's nice to just have a song, or a part of a song that reminds me to check in on that all the time, and so definitely one of the first things I do when things happen is just grab the old acoustic guitar and go start feeling, I have this notebook that all my songs are in. I've had it, since day one, and just like start writing, and hear what my mind has to say, try to get out of my own way. And sometimes, like I said, it just starts flowing, and it can tell me something from deeper, like someone else is in there and they're like, check this out, bro. And then read that to yourself 3 times and try to internalize that for a second. And that's just the magic of it, man. You're just like, who's in there? Who's, or maybe that's the muse people talk about, and all these figurative ideas you hear about music, that's just magic. Yeah, it's real. Maybe there is a higher power channeling through me and trying to help me save myself and maybe try to help me save other people in my small sphere of influence from stage and it's all we got,
That the higher power thing is super interesting. That's something that I talked to Jeremy Kaplan from Dogs in a Pile about, was how music is his higher power in a way. Some people consider going to a show like I'm going to church, or they
Oh
have
yeah.
a really deep experience with a certain band, or the people that have seen hundreds of shows of a same band and stuff like that. But music as a higher power, I think, is something that we both get from both sides of the guardrail.
Mhm.
Because in reality, whether you're the one making the music or the one listening to it, you're seeking something
Mhm.
and kind of turning yourself over at a time to that higher power. Something else you said about, in writing over the years, that, if you sometimes you just have to let it go. That might make it on stage, it might not. And in parts of our lives too, like there are things you have to let things come in as easily as you let them go.
Mhm.
But that higher power, what do you get? Is there a difference as a listener versus a performer, as a fan versus a creator from music?
I mean, I not really, man. I feel like it's all the same feeling, that we're trying to tap into. And yeah, so I think, obviously on stage I have a little bit more control over that. I think that's part of the cool part of being on stage is I get to provide that. But there's the age old jam band mantra of a cyclical experience. The band can put it out and then the crowd can put it back, and those really are the best concerts. But as far as like, yeah, the spirituality of the music, for me, it's not even just like the music is the deity or like the spiritualness. It's as much as it's like what the perfect example of the intangibles that don't exist in physics and in biology, the love, things that give you chills, things that make you just cry spontaneously and feel like insane feelings, like things that can't be explained. Like as we just explain everything and put everything in a box these days, I just feel like music's the one like elusive motherfucker who's like, can't catch me. Like I'm gonna be the one tangible, magical thing left in this fucking world while you guys try to fucking shove everything into a box and like equate for everything. And it's like, but I'm a science guy too, but it's like that's the magic of it, is like there's this one thing that doesn't really quite fit in, and that's the beauty of music and whatever the higher power that it is that connects us, and I think it helps pull back the veil of what's keeping people from being that oneness.
How much
We grooving
freedom?
together. We just grooving together, man. We're like
Yeah.
grooving, and you're grooving, and we're all on the same groove. I mean, it's real, dude. House
Yeah.
music, all that shit. Like when human beings are locked in, like that is a tangible thing. Like that's real.
Well, it's personal connection. Whatever medium you choose, obviously, music, I think, is arguably the biggest connection point for humans. There's a primal nature to music. There's uh, some, like you said, it's intangible. It's something you can't explain. When a certain riff comes out and you get goosebumps, or a
Inherent to
certain
us. I mean, it's like one of the first things we did. We probably didn't have roofs yet, and we're like slamming on drums. Like it
right,
was
right.
essential to us.
Right. So I think that something that's really, I watched the recent episode that you did of Flowers on the Stage with Cam, and something that you said was inspiration is at your fingertips if you truly want it. And I found that as a really cool statement in multiple ways, because the way that I internalized that was, obviously, within music, you can create, you can make stuff, if you want to put in the effort, you can get effort back.
Mm-hmm.
But where I took it a step further was that it's inspiration for life too, for change, for growth, for, interpersonal s- journey and travel and exploration. And I think inspiration is something that we can pull from a number of things, from musical influences, our family, our friends, our past relationships, and so many things like that. And within inspiration, I think something that I've noticed that you guys really favor heavily is collaboration and relationships between you guys and other bands. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording. The reason I know you guys is because of so many years of seeing you kind of in line with the guys in Pigeons too. And I'm curious as to how much you, or not how much, but what you value within your relationships and collaborating with other peers and other bands that you guys have been friends with for any amount of time within that decade that you've kind of been out here doing the thing.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I'd say a collaborative energy is inherent to the Beans philosophy. Um, and I think that's a big part of being from Colorado. Our music scene is extremely collaborative. We all our bands be fucking, like any night you could see Lettuce Talk Magic Beans members playing at a bar for 20 people, like it's wild. So it's part of our DNA in that way, but you do have to facilitate it, that it doesn't always just happen. So you have to reach out. I mean, that's on you, and I there are a lot of bands that don't make the effort, even Fish, my favorite band, they are kind of isolate themselves, and it after seeing them for 20 years and getting into the industry myself, I honestly started to get a little sour. I was like, wow, you guys have such a platform to launch a couple other bands, or at least, as the jam scene seems like maybe it could be in some sort of slouch or plateau, or maybe the next generation isn't hip to it yet. Like, you have the agency to keep a genre you helped create, like, pumping away, and then so there is a little bit, I think it's a responsibility of bands to be collaborative. I honestly do. And that's why this Pigeons, Dogs, Frasco thing, like you said before we started taping, is probably a logistical nightmare for their tour managers. Like, blessings to them for doing the hard work, and those bands for dropping ego and falling in line and not arguing about set space. And Frasco let Dogs play second at Asbury. Like, be good people, like be collaborative. It's like really, really important. I can't stress it anymore. Like, and when 2020 happened, when COVID happened, man, and the scene dropped out, and I'm not just like running into everyone. I wondered who was just a musician and an acquaintance on the scene, and who were my actual friends that I was making, and I really truly believe that, like, Pigeons are truly my friends. We are not just like hanging out and like, oh, we're bands that, like, I feel it from them. Like, they're happy to see me, I'm happy to see them. Like, so it's grown into a real relationship. And when the road consumes your life, I mean, I'd like to feel that these people are my actual friends. So I'm kind of done. After 2020, I said I'm done making like connections, and I want to make relationships with people. Like, I'm really not trying to climb any ladders anymore. I need things to feel real, and if it doesn't feel real to me, then it just doesn't feel stable, and that's not good for your mental health, man. Like, you want to be working with people that love you.
I mean, love's kind of where everything begins, right? In any music, mental health, physical health, it all starts from a place of love. You have to, I like following the adage, acting from love and not for it. Because if you can't give it out, you shouldn't expect to, or not expect, but if you can't give it, what value is it in receiving? You have to blend the two and appreciate both sides. And for guys like you that are on the road so much and have, like I said, you're a battle tested. I've seen you guys all over the country over the years, and you guys really, I think, end up in a lot of unique pockets too, like places that would be like, the Beans are there? Like, what? And I think that speaks
That's
to, like you said, it's a responsibility to collaboration, which I think is actually a very healthy way to look at that. And when your life is on the road and you're out and having those relationships is important, what exactly are things that you personally face in life on the road? Like I'm sure there's this the stereotypical, travel and long nights and you're away from people and all that. But what are specific challenges that you've faced or tools that you've developed to kind of keep a copacetic mindset while just traveling the country?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, still a work in progress. I'd say, the number one for us is interpersonal dynamics between the band. I think that's the hardest thing as you get older. Like I said, you're less soft and squishy. I think when we were in our 20s, you could argue and it would just roll off your back, and the next day things were back to normal, or sleeping situations might have not have been ideal, or the show might have gone poorly, and we're just like whatever. But as you get older, you just like start to become a person. You have like expectations for how you want your day to go, of how you expect people around you to act towards you, all these things. So and trying to keep everyone in their best mindset, so we were able to perform to our best, and everyone's different. Some people love, if there's a dispute, they want to hash it out right there, and some people don't, and we need to figure out a way to like, how can I properly express that I'm the guy that wants to shelve it, but not in a way that I don't ever want to talk about it, but I'm just feel heightened and I can't talk about it now. So everyone's just different is what I'm getting at. And to be transparent, I've pursued personal therapy, and the band's enrolled in therapy through Backline, because mediation is extremely helpful. I don't think there's really any stigma to it. I think if you're a band and you don't have a therapist, I think you should get on it right now. It's incredibly amazing. And it's amazing how many of your issues could probably be sorted out very easily with like some other person to just be like, all right, like, is that big of a deal, or it is a big a deal, you need to address it as such, and all these things. And so that's been a wonderful journey for us. And yeah, man, then on a personal level, I'm a creature of habit personally, so I try to like keep my habits strong out there. My routine, I try to wake up at the same time, I try to get in a workout if I can, because that's really important to me. And yeah, so routine huge, and loving the boys.
Routine, I'm the same way. I have been, my friends tell me I'm a little robotic at times, and it's because I love that routine. And admittedly, there's a fear of not having it because, I don't know if you share the same. There was a large part of my life where I was not in that control and did not have routine. And
Dude, we're totally the same in that way. I think we maybe, I had to lock in eventually. I was just like, I have to lock in or things are going to go bad.
yeah, yeah. And even admittedly, so things went bad and I still didn't lock in. And I was like, well, before they get worse, let me try to remedy this or figure something out.
Yeah,
And
man.
the extra impact of life on the road it's something that people that don't do it can't comprehend it because there's so many little things. You might get a flat on the road somewhere. You might be driving. Shit happens. But you might have a trailer that gets a flat where you got to be in a certain town 3 hours away, and you have a gig to make, and that's money. And like, there's so many different levels of things attached to whatever could happen on the road. You might have good relationships with your bandmates, but you might be missing a girlfriend, or you might be missing a wife or your kids, or
Mm.
there's so much within that. And I love the fact that you spoke about therapy, and Backline is actually an organization I'm talking with currently to try to work together with and get in line with, because
Yes.
exactly the reason that we are here right now discussing mental health as a whole, but particularly within the context of music, it is the most important conversation within a space that never wants to have it.
Yeah.
And it's coming more and more to light, and people are coming around to it, and good, the best to the people in that organization that are trying to push it forward, and is why I'm
Totally.
really hoping to align together and keep pushing it forward. But there is such a stigma around therapy, and there shouldn't be, because there's that
It's
you
an
mentioned
American thing, dude. It's
for sure.
like not just, but like it
No,
within
yeah.
America and then within the microcosm of music, there's like a double taboo. It's like this double down of taboo for sure.
Yeah, because I think people feel like they have to be strong all the time. They have to be sturdy. They can't show weakness, especially when you're in a professional aspect. If you show that there's not, that there's a little, something going on, you be worried about managers or this or that or other projects, and it shouldn't be that way because we're all human.
Mhm.
At the end of the
I'd go as
day,
far as to say that's an expression of weakness. If you can't really open up and be open with yourself, then you obviously have some things you need to work through. I Tom Brady goes to therapy, y'all. It's like just get over it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's good for you. It'll help you. You don't need to. You're not. You don't need to be depressed or anxious. You don't. They're not there to diagnose you. You know what I mean? And
Right.
there's just so many ways to benefit from it. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, it's something that you said about, like, it's getting out of your own way. A lot of times we don't admit that we need help, or we can't look at ourselves and face that because we have these preconceived notions about, like, oh, well, like, I can't let somebody know that I'm in therapy. I don't need therapy. Like, I'm smart enough, and I fall subject to this and have in my past, where I'm like, I'm too smart because I'll be able to diagnose and tell myself what that person's going to tell me, when if the subject of therapy was even on the table, clearly I'm not as affluent and in control as I thought that I was. And it's a point of acceptance. It's a point of exactly what you said. I tell my friends often, I make a lot of other mental health related content, and admitting that you need help isn't a weakness. It's actually a strength, because it's a way to look at yourself purely and raw and honestly. And I think that therapy doesn't get enough credit. And generally within that too, just talking to people, to your friends, reaching out, it's like you said with collaboration, it's on you to reach out.
Hmm.
In the same way, when you're talking about mental health, it's a responsibility to the people that you love and the people that you care about to check in and check in on yourself. Within music,
Yeah, I
there,
agree with you.
yeah.
But then also your happiness is your responsibility too at the end of the day. So as much as you can't sit there and be like, well, no one calls me to check in. It's like,
Hmm.
well, you need to take responsibility. If you want to be happy, you need to figure out how you can do that. That's your goal. It isn't your mom's goal. It's not your girlfriend's goal. And I think you'll find your relationship with your mom and your girlfriend will be a lot better if you can find happiness within yourself first. Then you have extra stuff in your cup to give to them when they're not happy. I mean, that's a great relationship, is if I don't want to make my bad days her bad days. If she can make her good days my good days, and I can make her good days my good days, now we're having more good days, and that's not even just in a a domestic relationship. Any relationship should work that way, in the way that, like, hopefully, if you love that person, you can help bring them out of a funk and have a cumulative, like, just better energy. That's what a relationship should be, and if it's not, then maybe you should not have that relationship.
For sure. And I think a lot of times we fall subject to, like, the fear of losing a relationship at all. So even if it's not serving us, we need to keep it because people are afraid of being alone or growing into, there's a beautiful metaphor that I think it was Tyler Perry made on, like, an award show, that when a rocket flies or when it takes off, eventually when it reaches a certain altitude, the boosters fall off. And that's because there are people in your life that aren't meant to go where you're going. And a real level of acceptance is that you might be the booster falling off of somebody else.
Oh wow. I was about to say, yeah, you might not even be the spaceship. I love that you said that because it is true.
Hmm.
Sometimes you
And
need to shed yourself from other people's stories. You know what I mean? But I also am a big believer of stewarding relationships. I don't believe they're easy. I'm not a big like cutting people off guy. I think there's a lot of like, especially now with dating, it seems like they don't people don't want to put in effort on people, you know what I mean? And they think it's just going to be easy, and it's just not, you know what I mean? And if you want a good relationship, it's going to take time, and if it starts good and gets sour, I think it's on you to try to fix it, and not just be like, this person's not my vibe. Your vibe attracts your tribe and I deserve better. It's like, don't be like that, like try to freaking make them a part of your life. And if it really doesn't work out, then you should move on for sure.
absolutely. And I mean, there's also the beauty of time because people can come back around. There are people that are meant to only be in your life for a season. But there are people that are meant to be in your life for every season. So, like, if you're meant to be here this fall and you're not around for winter or spring or summer, I'll see you next fall or I'll see you in a different time. And it's giving people the chance to grow and learn who they are and learn about themselves because a recurring theme that I've really tried to weave throughout a lot of these episodes is that you can only ever meet somebody as deeply as you've met yourself. So in terms of those relationships, if you haven't done the work to dig into you and you haven't spent time with yourself, those connections can't turn into relationships. They can't progress and deepen. And I'm of the belief that the best relationships that are worth having typically aren't easy
Hmm.
because it's in a romantic way, you want to fall in love with each iteration of the person that you choose. And
Hmm.
with your friends, we're all going to go through shit.
Hmm.
And while we can help, like you said, it is their responsibility to take care of themselves. But there's also a collective conscious. Why not try to be a friend? I'll put out my hand. And if you don't take it and slap it away, that's okay because the
Hmm.
next time you need it, it'll still be there.
Yeah. Not everyone could say that, but
No, and sometimes, I have to be in more intelligent, sometimes pull your hand away. Like
but
there,
I
there
love
are
what you're
times.
saying, man, and it's so true. And I think totally, I can think of relationships in my life that are some of the harder ones, to maintain, and but you learn the most from them. I think you become the most well-rounded individual through dealing with that, because people are going to be different your whole life, and the sooner you can just like find grace for them, and find understanding and common ground, and then I think just life becomes easier for you. And so yeah, those people are sent to teach you something, and then and it will become easier in time. I also believe that if there's friction in a relationship, you'll learn from each other, and then hopefully I become closer.
Yeah, and that's exactly, it's just giving it time and giving it space and understanding that the universe tends to unfold as it should. So let it. Don't fight it. Don't, like I said before, let things come in as quickly as you'll be willing to let them go too. But a similar thing that I think is really powerful within music is that it allows you to give space to yourself because you're learning, whether you're learning a chord progression or you're learning a bit of theory or you're just listening to see what other people are doing and kind of draw from that. What personal freedom do you get within music from the sense of, you know, obviously going out on stage, I'm sure is a creative release and a personal freedom within, like you said, you're more in control. You're the conduit for whatever that vibe is.
Hmm.
But on the back end, what freedom and what growth do you find amidst your journey through music?
Man, that's unfortunately, when you make your outlet, your job, that becomes actually something you need to steward, because it becomes less free. There's definitely was an era, and I'm still fight it every day when I go to play music, I'm going to work, not even just live, but like I pick up the guitar and I used to just strum and write music, and I didn't even have a band. So there wasn't a thought of like, what's the end game for this? Am I learning this for? So I'm going to play this next week. And like, so everything becomes part of like the career, part of the chase of being better and being more successful and catching on and whatever. Uh, so yeah, man, in the last 3 years and since COVID in particular, I've really tried to be like, man, I think I might need times where I play music just to play music, and I'm not even allowed to think about the magic beans because otherwise this is only work for me. So it's something I have to do. I have to carve out. So doesn't sound very free at all, does it? But you're like, how can you find freedom in music? And I'm like, well, I set aside time to feel free within music. But that's kind of what I do. Because yeah, like I said, it becomes the job. That's like that whole scary thing people talk about as an artist. Like, be careful making it your job because then it takes that away from you. But I'm always thinking about music, and I love it so much. And you know, I like drive without music on so I can have the music come to me. And that's like I hear tune. That's how I write most of my music is like, I try to like, if you're not leaving things silent, then you'll never hear the music within yourself. You'll always just hear the music that you're playing, and then is your music going to be as authentic as you want it to be? Maybe, I don't really know. But for me, it feels better when I just like, I'm walking, then I hear like, and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. And then I like sing it into my phone, and then I run home and I start playing it. And so I guess that's the freedom of music. I still feel like a little kid when I get a good riff in my head. And then as I'm writing it, I try to like not be like, yeah, this would be great for the beans. And I try to keep that out for at least an hour or two while I have fun with it in a sandbox way. And then maybe once it's more finished, I could be like, yeah, this is kind of a beans tune. Or I'll be like, this is not ever going to be played, but boy, was it fun to make. And I might keep doing it.
That's
like
a
Mac
really
DeMarco. You listen to Mac DeMarco at all? I love his music
Oh yeah.
style, dude. He just like pumps it out and
Makes whatever he fucking wants.
he has a blast through it, man. And that's really just music. We've been doing that. We've been recording a shit ton, like, and being kind of quiet about it. But we have like 20 songs recorded, and some of them are goofy as all hell, dude. And and I love that. I think there's like a couple of marketable songs, and then a few that are just fucking were fun as fuck to make, and like are silly, and people might laugh when they hear them, and they might love them. They're definitely good, in my opinion. So just yeah, trying to be as free as possible, and we're lucky to have a fan base. I think when you're trying to make it, there's a lot more thinking of like, oh, what are people gonna like and stuff, and we're just in a new phase of like, we just do whatever we want, and people are usually down, and so it's been cool.
So there's freedom within that. There's while it's work, there's the freedom within the creative side of it. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's like that old actor thing, like make one for them and then two for you. Uh,
I love
so
that.
yeah, so like with music, and I feel like the coolest thing about being a writer and being a songwriter is you can make 100 things, and they can all just be for you.
Mhm.
And then you can kind of, take them into the band, and it's work and it's a professional space, but you guys are also collectively trying to create and trying to bear a piece of yourselves, which
Yeah.
I think is really it is a brave aspect of what you guys do. Is it's hard to get out there night after night, year after year, and be like, hey, this is us. You down?
Yeah, you down?
Like
Some people are like,
um
no, and you have to live with that. A
yeah.
lot of people are.
Yeah, but that's also the nature of humanity. Like you do the same thing off stage. You're like, hey, like this is me. And someone's like, nah. And you're like, all right, cool. Like, hey. And you go to the next person. And something that I think is unique within the your freedom and your passion becoming work. I want to talk about how you forayed 10, 12 years ago, I think now, into creating a festival, because I think that's a really cool avenue of even that a lot of musicians might never get, because a lot of guys aren't in the grassroots style of like, I need to create this. I want to make something for our fans, for us, a place for us. And I read an interview of yours about around the 10th anniversary of the festival, and it said, the moments at shows and festivals are fleeting, but the people we meet there, we take back with us into the real world. And that's something really powerful because to me, what I can gather then is that creating the festival itself gave you more of a place to have that human connection and gives you something to put creative energy into and then get inspiration from.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit. I don't need to hear about, just how, oh, well, this was the idea I had in college. Like, I want to talk about the backside of it, what creating Beanstalk and watching it grow over, what is this going to be, the 12th or the 13th?
12th year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
And how does Beanstalk serve you? Feel free to talk about, responsibilities to it and stresses and stuff like that, but what does Beanstalk give you?
Mhm. Yeah, man. It's a very like tangible look at the community we've been able to foster and that fosters us. It's very much a family reunion, and it legitimizes like Team Bean. I don't know. A lot of other fan bases I feel like are like people come together at the show and you're like, yeah, we both like the band, and then I'll never see you again. Like our scene, our Team Bean is so tight. Like we are a real family of people. Like, and I think Beanstalk's a really huge part of that. People come together and check in one with another and really invest in one another. So I think it's just helped bring our group from a fan base into an actual family, into an actual community. I've definitely heard it from other bands. Luke from the special, the special's been there like 7 times at this point, and he's been sure to tell me, he's like, this is, it feels real, it feels tangible. I can tell these people are invested in the band and each other beyond just like, I like the song. There's like a lot more going on. Or shoulders to cry on and stuff. So that's just been the joy of it, man. And it's crazy. It's one of those things that I feel like it's just an honor to put on for me. And it's so much bigger than me. There's so much staff involved and people that have been 10 years that bring their energy up there. And so I love it. It's seriously the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, for sure.
That's super powerful. And I wonder if that's part of the reason that you have such a close relationship with the guys in Pigeons too, because they have a similar thing with Domefest and you guys not only friends of years of tour and I Pigeons are some of are have become some of my very good friends. I've seen them more than anybody else. I have a pigeon tattoo on my forearm.
Cool.
They're the some of the best guys I've met in the scene and
I believe
I,
that.
I mean, like I said, I know who the Beans are because of Domefest. And now I think that's probably something beautiful, speaking again to the art of collaboration. It's something you guys can share, which is something that even in the music space, a lot of people don't get to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jeremy and Greg and the boys, Gator, Ben, they all operate from the heart, which is and the mind. They're very business savvy. That goes without saying, but there's so
Sure.
much heart in their business. They're extremely collaborative. They make time and energy to shout out people like that. That takes time. It's they don't need to have you up to sit in with them. Like they can put on a show just fine without you, but they choose every show to have guests. And so yeah, I think that's definitely why I felt like we connected, and watching them from behind the scenes when we started supporting them early on. They were a huge inspiration for how I wanted to manifest a real community and not just like make money off people coming to a show. It just doesn't feel legit to me. It needs to be a lot more realer.
Yeah, and the
More realer.
realness is the yeah, more real. That's the part of it that's sustainable, the community and
Mhm.
the people within it. And then you also get to give it back too. Like Jeremy, you're playing the after parties on tour, and then Pigeon Jeremy comes up every night and plays and sits in,
Mhm.
and Greg comes up and play. Like it's just really cool to watch like-minded people out on the road sharing in each other's time and space. And I loved that the quote that I mentioned because I think a huge part of all of this, of music, is the people within it. For me personally, I get just as much enjoyment out of going to a show and seeing people that I haven't seen in months, or seeing somebody that I just saw the other day and dancing and having a good time. And I have so many friends that are diehard Team Bean. I have a good friend, Anna, who I know you're familiar with. She is Team Bean diehard, and so many others. And it's just amazing to watch you guys navigate that too, because you give back to them, they give to you, and it's a beautiful symbiotic thing over the guardrail back and forth.
Yeah.
And yeah, music provides a conduit to that.
Yeah, man. I feel like I like to keep a personal relationship with our fans, and we're lucky to be big enough where we have fans, but we're not too big where there's, I'm just looking out at a sea of people. I really do see the same people every night. I love Anna as a person, and she's gone from just like a fan to like she's worked Beanstalk. She just did merch at a couple of our shows. She's contributed her own glass art that now she's gotten into, and I sell it at the merch booth because I think it's cool and because
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. And Anna, I'm always here for you as you have been there for us, and that's like, man, as you just get older and things are just so fake. That's kind of my goal. I just have this quest for authenticity and realness within the industry and in my life. And I find that's just what like brings me happiness and makes me feel like not like a phony, you know what I mean? Like I just can't like go and fake it. I'm not good at like schmoozing. Like if a big musician doesn't want to talk to me, I'm not going to bother him just because I need a photo for our Facebook or something. Like that's not my style. Like I'm not a guy who like hangs out on the corner of a green room and is like, and then like goes on Facebook and is like hanging with the boys. And it's like, they don't even know who you are. You were just there. Like I'm not trying to like fake any relationships I have with anyone and try to climb any ladders. Like I was saying, it's just like I'm really trying to just foster real relationships between myself and my, contemporaries touring, the musicians, and the crew, and then our fans too. I just want it to be real as fuck. So that's why we try to keep it real.
Yeah, more realer.
Or realer.
Um, do you feel like a personal responsibility to being attainable in that kind of way? I think that's something that I spoke with Brownie about that was really cool. Was he's like, I want to be the most accessible guy in the jam scene.
I
I
fucking
want
love Brownie.
he's dude, I met Brownie when I was 17 and got into the Biscuits, went to Camp Bisco for the first time and was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And here we are nearly 13 years later, and him and I have always stayed in touch, and he checks in, and he's a really, really great person. But I love the fact that even now the Biscuits are who they are, and all this, hype, especially with where they are currently, he makes it a point to want to be accessible. And I speak to the fact that I hate how idolized a lot of you guys get, because and I say that respectfully, because at the end of the day, like,
Preach.
yes, you guys are doing something special, and you guys are unique and creative and awesome people to follow and draw inspiration from and support. But at the end of the day, like, you fucking put your pants on one leg at a time, just like
I'm
I
not
do.
any better than you because I play guitar licks.
Right. I have a guitar right here. Just because I don't really know what to fucking do with it, doesn't mean that there has to be a gap. But Yeah, I'm curious, do you feel a responsibility to being accessible that way? Or is
Yeah,
it just that it personally serves you and it makes you
I
feel
think
good?
just like in, I don't think anyone's entitled to me, and if I don't have the energy, I'm definitely one to be like, not today. But I just like meeting the people. I'm truly so fucking thankful that people come to the shows. It means so much to me. Like, so yeah, I mean, they're definitely entitled to some of my time, and I'm entitled to thank them. Like, I think people that leave the stage and are like, "I'm the reason everyone came tonight. I'm the shit." Like, I don't know if people think that, but like maybe they do, but like I don't. I'm just like so
Yeah.
thankful, dude. There's a million people that could take my job. There's artists are a dime a dozen, man. To be honest, in the industry, there's always another person trying to be a musician. The real heroes are the staff and the crews and the people like that, like never get thanked, and they still do the same work, grow up at the same hours, and or they even have worse hours,
I was
work
gonna say.
harder. So you know, that's just how I see it. So yeah, I love being transparent. I think it's kind of fun. I certainly don't have like stuff to hide. I don't have like a mysterious like what's the word, like character I'm playing. There's no like
Right, there's not like an
mystique. There's no
aura or
mystique to me. Yeah,
yeah.
I like to think that like you can take me on face value, and that's just who I be, and that translates to on stage. I think the Biscuits are an incredibly authentic band. I think that's why they're one of my favorites. Is there is an effort these days for bands are super clean, and now I'm moving into the musical sense, and are afraid to take chances and be authentic and fail. And not that the Biscuits fail, but like they take chances every night. They put it out there. They let the emotion and the feeling dictate it, and don't try to be like, well, this might not sound good later, or it might not resonate. So I love that about them, and I think that Brownie's whole thing of being like authentic translates into the music, and that's why the Biscuits are just like one of the last real jam bands left. I really do feel like improvising every night. Like, you really truly never know where they're gonna go. They don't even know, and I that's rare, man. A lot of bands would know exactly what they're doing the whole show, even in the jam band scene. So I love that.
Absolutely. I prefer the bands. I don't want polished. Just like in the way you want with in relationships with people. I want real. I One of my favorite things, and it may sound odd, I love watching somebody fuck up a lyric or hit a wrong note because it it makes you understand that they're human. And
uh,
there have been so many times where, like I said, I really connect to lyrics, and being such a repeat offender at Pigeons and the Biscuits over the years. I've seen Pigeons more than anybody, and there have been so many times where I'm locked in with Greg and he slips up, and I laugh, and he's just like, yeah, all right, and you move on, but it's a funny interaction and a moment of humanity, and it's
oh yeah.
just it makes you
And watching
appreciate it.
how they process that, I think, is a good look into like what sort of person they are. I think there's probably people that are like, fuck, oh, and like
Yeah.
watching Greg just be like, mm. It
Yeah.
kind of just lets you know, like, yeah, it is all just fun. No one gets hurt in music. Like, it's not like we just fell and scuffed our knee. There's just like, you really, the whole band could train wreck and like stop and be like, wow, that sucked. And I'd probably just laugh, and they'd be like, do you guys mind? And they'd be like, whatever, fuck
Right.
it.
You probably get a cheer. You probably people would be
Exactly,
like,
dude.
yeah. And that's the fun nature of it. And I think that that's what people forget. Some like music is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyment. At the end of the
Especially in the
day,
jam scene, man. We're
yeah.
supposed to be the most like unhinged, free form. And I think it's so funny how sometimes the fans are just like, well, that jam went sour. And I was like, yep. Gonna
Yeah,
happen.
shit happens. Just like in life, things go sour. It
You're
happens.
just perfect all the time. Like, what? No, no.
Perfect is boring and normal is boring.
Boring. Let's
Boring.
fuck it up, and then I think
Fix it later.
fish, yeah, or like fish it there's a great interview with Paige where he says some of the times his favorite moments happen after the worst moments. It almost causes this moment of heightened activity where the band's like, oh shit, we got to dig ourselves out. And you almost like lock in as a band. And then all of a sudden you're into this new jam. You're like, well, we never would have got there if we wouldn't have fucked up.
Right, right. Something within that about locking in, I kind of want to circle back to that and, life and routine and things like that. I'm curious if for you, taking those chances on stage and bearing yourself on stage, when you take a step off stage, how does that influence you doing the same in your personal venture or in your personal relationships? Does having that freedom of going out on stage and throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it hits and just kind of trying and figuring it out, but also being willing to let it go, how much does that teach you about how to navigate your life off stage?
Yeah, great question, man. Wow. So many good questions. Yeah, well,
Appreciate
there's so much
that.
to learn. I mean, just the give and take of relationships and being, being okay, being like, this is my idea, being assertive in the way that you have free will and you have agency here, but also being in the way that this is a collaborative effort, as are most things in life. Oh, my idea wasn't received. Or maybe this is the idea that everyone's latching onto and I'm not even in love with it. Here we go. So there's a lot of going with the flow. Um, I'm a big believer in, or I try to set myself up for success so I can just be me and be natural. I try so that way I don't need to regulate myself too much out in the real world. So I think that comes with my routine. I love working out. I do therapy. I try to eat good. I do some body therapy, massage work, and cupping work when I can afford it. And I think that's like, tuning your machine and putting yourself in a headspace so that way I don't need to I'm not thinking about don't get angry at this person because I'm just not an angry person, hopefully. And I can just let it be me and then everyone will hopefully
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. On sidebar, I just got cupped like 2 or 3 weeks ago because I've been having like some rotator cuff stuff. Dude, the spots aside, the feeling that the relief afterwards. I mean, like we're talking about, health is wealth. Physical, the way you take care of your body is the way you take care of your mind. For me, the gym is a form of therapy.
Mhm.
I, not to go too deep into it, but I used to be 320 pounds and incredibly unhealthy. And in 2018, I had a really bad back injury that shelved me for about a year,
Wow.
epidural shot to let into physical therapy just to be able to like walk and function. And
Wow,
I,
bro.
I turned my health around and I lost 120 pounds and found yoga and dieting and yeah, I'll send you a picture. Well, I'll show. I'm gonna be I'll be in at the show Saturday and hopefully we can link up for a minute and I'll show you a picture so that I'm not bullshitting. Um but yeah, it's I like to think that when I exercise my body, I am exercising my mind because they operate together.
Yeah.
A good mental health without good physical health isn't a thing, and vice versa. So I love hearing that you make intention to take care of your body because it takes care of you. Have you always had that? Have you always had a good relationship with fitness, or when is there something in particular that brought that about? How did you find fitness?
Yeah, good question, man. Because it has become a huge part of my life, actually, and I never foresaw it, dude. I was always the
Preach.
lanky. I was more the lanky hippie that had never lifted anything in his life, just like didn't have a muscle on his body. Definitely was using drugs and alcohol pretty good amount through my 20s. Honestly, I wanted something more for myself, man. And like I said, I feel like I was you need to set yourself up for success. So it's, I could probably I could make myself mentally healthy without working out, but it's going to require what, like 100 horsepower maybe. But if you're working out, now all of a sudden that's just a 20 horsepower effort to maintain your mind. So it's more just taking something off your plate. You know what I mean? If your mind's right, if your body's right, then maybe it's just a step closer to having your mind right. And I was trying to figure out anxiety and guilt at the time. I was going through a lot of that, and so I was like, how can I get out of this, man? Like, and it was just cliche shit. I mean, people are like, you got to eat well and you got to work out, and I had tried everything, including drugs, and that wasn't working either. And I was like, maybe there's something to what everyone says you need to do. So I just buckled down, and then I think seeing results is a huge part of fitness. The moment you kind of catch your first results, you're like, holy shit, this is happening. And then you kind of just get addicted. Now I love it, man. I just can't imagine not working out. And it's not, I have to convince myself not to go as opposed to I used to convince myself to go. Now I'm like, just take a day off, bro. You need a rest day. I'm like, I love
Fucking
it.
A, man.
I don't know
I
why, man. It
cannot.
feels good.
I can't relate enough to that. And it's funny that you mentioned like my road was similar. We can outright say music, we live within a chemical culture of music, in and out of music. We do. There's no there are very few jam band fans or music or that haven't
Mhm.
tried something at some point. Some of us have gone further than others. I recently just actually celebrated 2 years of sobriety, and but there was way more time that I wasn't, and
Way more time
and
than I wanted.
yeah, and during the times when I wasn't, fitness was not an important thing. I actually didn't get sober until after I started to take care of my health, and I think it's kind of what you said. Once you start seeing those results and you feel better, you're like, well, what else can I do that'll make me feel better? And admittedly, personally, I flew a little too close to the sun, but I had my fun, and I had the explorative nature of it, and I had the goods and the bads, and all of those things. But it pushed me to where I am now, and it pushed me to finding fitness and yoga and diet and all of those things, and climbing, and a lot of moving out to Colorado. I stepped into the exact stereotypical, like, I got tired of coming out here just to make trips to go do it. And
Yeah.
the last time I flew back to New Jersey, fuck this, dude. Like, that's where I need to be. And it's been beautiful being out here almost a year now,
Fuck yeah.
since last year living. But it's very funny to find that people that do find the routine and the physical side of their health, I feel like generally tend to have a better handle on their mental health. Like, you seem incredibly, that you've really done a lot of the digging and a lot of the work and a lot of the thought to understand how things make you feel, understand why things make you feel. And you also don't seem to disparage any of your journey up to now either, which I think is important. A lot of us, I did for a long time. I didn't want to be the guy that I used to be. I didn't like the guy that I used to
Oh, there's a
be.
lot there, man. I went through
Sure.
it too. I've been arrested 4 times. I got kicked out of 2 high schools. I got kicked out of college. I've been arrested since college. I've been in jail. I fucked up, bro, and I was just done fucking up. Like, I really needed to grab the reins of my life, and almost to a point where now I'm trying to like dial back and be like, all right, less reins, bro. Like, let things happen. But there was a point where I needed control because I needed to get myself out of where I was, and I wanted to be on the right path so bad, man. Like, not that drugs are bad, but they were just taking me down the wrong path, man, and going to jail and shit, and just like costing my family money and time. They have to bail me out. Now I owe them, and we're going like, this is fucked, man. And like, I just didn't want it for myself. And yeah, and the fitness thing helped. It did parlay into sobriety. It's crazy. You start seeing change in yourself, and then someone's like, you want to drink some beers? And I'm like, well, I just spent, 6 days in the gym. I could undo that in 3 hours. Not to be a calorie counter, but like seriously, I'd be like, fuck that shit, bro. I'm trying to fucking get some gains, bro. So it helped me like kind of just get perspective of like, I mean, calories are time. And if you set aside time to go to the gym and then you just eat a donut, you just wasted an hour of your life. So I think it parlays into all things in your life that like everything pays a cost. Doing cocaine one night is gonna pay, you're gonna pay the cost next day. So it's just that perspective of like you're the only one who can make change in your life, and when the results start rolling in, you're like, oh shit, this is awesome.
I love calories or time. I love that. That's a really cool way to frame it. I've never thought about it that way. And that's a really, really cool thing. I'm going to take that with me. Um, and
Calories.
something kind of what we've been talking the last little bit about is something that I'll give to you that I gave to Brownie that he loved was that what they're doing and what the Biscuits are currently doing and him and the team, it's collective intention for calculated freedom. And I think that that's kind of what you're doing in your life is intention for calculated freedom, setting yourself up to be the best of yourself, to operate at your highest level and be on the right path. Because then once you're there, bets are off and you can be free to
Mm-hmm.
explore, to create, to make music, to form relationships, because we always want to present the best versions of ourselves, right? So why not set ourselves up for success on the back end so that the
Yeah,
front end can just be an adventure?
that's exactly what I want. You're totally right, man. I just want to be naturally happy and naturally at ease and stuff. I don't want to have to like be consciously thinking of it. And I know that's a journey. I'll probably out there always be moments I'll need to be keeping myself in check. But the less I can do that and just be my honest self, man, that is the goal. And it really requires the work on the back end. You're so right, man. And to speak to what you said earlier, I may have an idea of, you're right, of like how I think the work for I've done the work figuring out like what I need to do, but the work, I'm still doing so much work. I think the work for me is boots on the ground sort of work. And that's some of the hardest mental health work. I think if anyone's been to therapy, it's really easy to like say all these things and like, yeah, I just need to, next time someone offers me a beer, if we're, to wrap it into drinking or whatever, just be like, no. And then you're like, it's that easy. But like put yourself in the situation, like if someone's bickering at you and you want to flip out, like, can you control that? You know what I mean? And I think that's the work now I'm on. I was just like, obviously I don't want to flip out, but I might right now. So
But that's the important work, and it's the work that never stops. You
thank you
can
for saying
never
that. Okay, that's the
you
point I wanted to make. Is like you never get there. It's just like always, you're always working towards it, right? And that's
yeah.
music too, man. A lot of people say that about the musical journey. You never just stop learning, guitar or something. It's one of those things you could just learn your whole life. It's so cool. And mental health is that way too. So that's another comparison between music and mental health. Like a never ending journey, man, till you die. So don't expect it to ever end.
Well, the minute you stop learning is the first step you take backwards.
Amen.
I like to believe that everything in life begins with one step, whether that's forward or backwards is your choice. But the worst thing you can do is stay in place because while it's important to stop and reflect and have that reality of, okay, this is where I am right now.
Yeah,
This is
man.
where I need to be.
I have a
You,
song that is,
you got to move.
that's what the chorus of the song is. When you take a step, you're 1 foot further from where you were at. And it sounds like really basic, like, oh yeah, duh. I just took 1 step forward. But like it really like you're 1 step further ahead from where you were at. So it just starts with 1 step, man. And then the next line is when you take a breath, you bring your mind to where it's at. And that's about like the song's about centering yourself and taking it 1 step at a time. And that's really just like the journey of mental health, man. It's never ending, and it's incremental, and it just takes time.
It is incremental. Healing's not linear, progression's not linear. Just like we said, one for them, two for you. There are going to be times where it's two steps forward, a step back, and then four steps forward, and then one more back, and then two to the left, and then a U-turn, and whatever
Hey,
place that
9 mile
you
skid on a 4 mile drive, right? Isn't that
right,
hot in the
right.
pistol but cold inside? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just all about finding where you are in your journey and accepting that where you are is where you should be. Where you were is where you were supposed to be to get to now, to get to wherever you're going. And I appreciate you have a lot of recognition for where you are currently at and your assessment of yourself. A lot of people could have just taken that compliment, but the fact that you were able to say, you know what? Yes, but also like here is where I'm at. I think in a way it's a form of self-preservation. It's also a way to just be honest with yourself. Like you said, you want to just be honest and be real. And let's be frank, especially those of us that are out here trying to be healthy, sober. We're just out here raw dogging life. And
Yes,
and
we are.
and sometimes, it catches you slipping a little bit, and it happens to the best of us. But I really do enjoy finding people that have the ability to recognize where they're at and see that it's okay if where they're at isn't exactly where they want to be. I struggle with that a lot. I find I am such a creature of I need to move forward. I need to get to the next thing. I need to progress. I need to learn more. I need to do this.
Yeah, man.
And sometimes I forget to just fucking hang out and look at what's around.
Fucking live life and just like, yeah, totally, man. I'm such a workaholic, dude. But I feel you.
Yeah, but I think that's part of what has connected me to music so strongly is specifically in the live setting. Like, dude, a show is yes, there's I can go and see people and I can go and talk and have fun and connect and all those things. But that is a three, depending on what one set, two set, whatever, call it 3 hours. It's just a pocket in time. Whatever
Yeah.
else is happening outside of the barriers or whatever else is happening outside of the building or wherever else is there and it has its place. But it really provides me the ability to be present and enjoy what's happening.
Isn't
And
that the
I'm
truth, man? That's one of the fucking hugest parts about concerts is like just tapping in. And that's weird. You're all together, but no one's talking really. I mean, there's some chomping going on, as we
sure.
like to call it, but on the whole, the fact that you can stand next to people for like 3 hours and we're all connecting, but no one's really saying anything. What a beautiful experience because language can fuck shit up so bad, and music lots of times doesn't. And that's what's great.
Yeah, man. And in a beautiful parody, silence is deafening. So
Mhm,
not saying anything sometimes says all that you need to.
mhm.
And I agree, man. The live setting it's just unlike anything else. It's so unique and beautiful and special, and just like mental health, it means so many different things to so many different people. You can go and have your experience, and whatever it means to you can be what it is that night. It can be something different entirely the next night.
Mhm.
And going back to the point of how you said as a fan versus a creator, it's the same thing. In the live setting, do you get that same feeling in the crowd versus on stage? Do you just get to, obviously, when you're on stage, it's work and you have a goal. But I have to imagine there's a moment in time during the show where you're just checked out to check in, if that makes
Oh yeah.
sense.
Oh yeah. That's the goal, man. That's the goal. I think there's like hopefully you try to learn how you can flick the switch a little bit more and try to get there quicker and then also snap out and be like, all right, kind of there's work to do sometimes. Sometimes you need to get a guest on and you need to host them. You can't be like lost in the music and be like, what? Hey guys, like I'm a front man. I gotta fucking perform, you know, but like, oh yeah, dude, that's like seeking that out every night, and especially after a big long set, sometimes I'll feel like I'm so in touch with the music that I need to reconnect with like the English language and like even just human interaction. Like I'll let myself get so swept up that like I feel like a newborn child sometimes. I come off stage and people, great show, blah blah blah, and I'm like, because I was literally speaking a different language. It's almost like being bilingual. I don't know what it's like, but like speaking Spanish all the time, and then one guy comes up and wants to speak English. I assume there's like a switch you need to flip. I don't. I'm not bilingual. I'm
I
a
am,
loser who only
and you're
speaks one
100%
fucking
right.
language. But but like sometimes I'll get so lost as what I'm getting at is I almost feel like I'm just like an alien that speaks music, and then I get off stage and have to like reassimilate with human life.
Right, come back out of the pod into Hugh.
Unless you're talking with a fan who's obviously still in the same mental place that you are, and they're like, "Whoa, dude," and I'm like, "I know what just happened.
Yeah,
Take a minute. I gotta process this."
but I think that's the most beautiful thing about all that we've been saying is it's the human connection. Whether you're on stage, off stage, backstage, work it, wherever you are, we're all human and we're all in it for whatever we are as personal endeavor, but there is always that collective us just trying to get better and have fun and be free and live life for whatever it's worth in the moment.
Yeah,
And I think that within the moment in the microcosm of music and mental health as a very particular, I think they're the exact same. I don't think that you can truly get to wherever you're supposed to without being in the moment.
yeah, man. That's the big struggle of our music in general, or not struggle, but it is one of the things out on tour. We're not playing, the same set every night. There's a lot of, and this is a whole nother thing. I've talked with musicians about it because there's different ways. I've had friends in the jam scene that go to the other side and they're like, we play the same 20 songs every single night. They're like, I could literally be constipated, my cat could have died, and other things, and I can still go and perform because I just run through the changes. Like, you can't do that with improv. With jam band, if you're not in the mindset to play, dude, it's really hard to create magic for people in an improv setting. Like, it's really, you can't just phone it in. People can smell it.
For,
And so that's really, I mean, you have to put yourself, like we were saying, do that back end work. So when you hit the stage, you're ready to perform, and to flip that, I think what my friends have said on the other side is, um, as much as it's easier to play the same set, they also miss the jams angle then sometimes where they're like, I just don't really feel like I'm expressing myself very much through it and stuff like that. So obviously I chose the jam scene for a reason, and I prefer to do that. But there's a lot of work that goes into being a jam player, man. You got to be ready to fucking take people places, and like, what if your dog died, or what if you just ate a bad burrito, man? Fuck, what are you gonna do? So people don't think about that sometimes.
for sure. Do you think that the lack of autopilot in the musical avenue that you're in inspires a lack of autopilot in your life?
No, I think it makes me want it really bad. Like, I'm the type of person that like needs the foil of like the opposite. Like, I play video games that are like, I just started playing. I'm not a gamer at all. I play like Mario and stuff. I play like games that like tell me what to do because I'm always orchestrating stuff. Like, I'm a band leader. In case you don't know, I do some of the managerial stuff for Beans as well. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
reins holding and string pulling. So like, when I get off the road, I like to like meet that with a foil sometimes of like, so I guess that's what I'm getting at is like, I'm sure it's taught me how to be like lessons for life, but sometimes I just maybe that's why I love routine so much when I'm not performing because there's no routine to the performance with the beans. We really we improv every night, man. We don't have like a plan for anything. We're pretty raw jam band. You know what I mean? We're very well rehearsed. I'll say that. You know, it's not like we just get together and see what happens, but like 70% of our show, I have no idea what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So it's like it's fun. It's just fun. I love being in the beans. I think it's great. I think any more organization would be too much for me. So
Yeah, man. Well, it's variety and freedom, to make a pun, is the slice of life, right?
yeah.
It's kind of what it's all about. And yeah, it really just is fun. It's what we're here for. Real, pure, raw, honest fun.
That's what's great
And
about the jam band, dude. It's unfiltered, it's uncensored. There's just so many things that are contrived and curated these days. I think it's just one of those last bastions of raw human shit.
yeah, well, we're incredibly force-fed the opposite.
Yeah, we are.
So it's a beautiful place to just go and connect and find like-minded people and just get more realer.
Get more realer. Let's hold on to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my one quote from this.
There, trust me, there are many. But what I want to do now is I want to just give you complete open floor, open space. If there's one thing that you could talk to your fellow musicians, your fellow human, your friends, whoever, anybody, if there's one thing that Scott would want to share with the world, what would that be?
God. Um,
Here will be the one quote.
I love you, thank you, and I'm sorry. That's what my anxiety. My anxiety is telling me to apologize and thank everyone, and you still like me. No, that's I
That was
don't know, guys. Like, you know, let's not take it too seriously. You know, I'd say everyone just lighten up, and I think if you have a platform for to help other people, whether it be other bands, artists, I really recommend using it. Things are really hard for artists and real people trying to do real stuff. So I think if you feel like secure in your spot and you're on like a big tour bus tour or you're making shows are sold out, maybe and don't just sit on those laurels. Think of what you can do to help other people feel that success or feel that love and that warmth that you're experiencing right now. And then maybe we can all just be in a better world.
I think that that's really both. I mean, honestly, both were fantastic, uh, but I do really think that that's an important message, and I think that it goes for everybody. If you have any way that you can help somebody, if you have any way that, kind of what I'm trying to do here is develop a platform to allow people to come on to share and give insight into their lives, to help them connect to other people, to give listeners and viewers a way to get insight into the people that they appreciate and help just humanize everybody. And I think, like we said earlier, admitting that you need help is not a weakness, it's a strength. And in the same way that offering help is a strength, and it's just about trying to help your fellow human. And
Let's rally around each other, man. Let's do
yeah,
it. Rally
I
around
think,
the family.
yeah,
Pocket
well,
full of
that's,
shells.
yeah. uh, uh, I mean, team being and everything else aside, from a personal place, it has been so wonderful to finally get to meet you and have a conversation and really get to get insight into who you are and give people a window into the things that you believe and the things that you choose to stand on, but also see how great of a navigation you've had in your own journey. And I am incredibly respectful of the place you have of yourself and really appreciative of a lot of the things that you shared today, things that I don't even think you intended to kind of dig into. I think we really broke open, which is kind of what I've been loving about these is just letting it flow and letting it develop and having a human conversation. And I credit you to the utmost in who you seem to be as a person, as a performer. I have done nothing but enjoy seeing you over the years and look forward to continuing to do so. And thank you so much for making the time today, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, buddy. You're doing a really good job. I'm not even joking when I say this is one of the best interviews I've done. I love, just like I said, we're talking about actual things. This is stuff people probably actually want to listen to. I'm excited to release it, and hopefully people glean something from it, and it helps you on y'all's journey. So thanks for having me, dude. And I look forward to hanging out and meeting on Saturday in Boulder.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait. It's 10 minutes from the house. Stoked to see
Woo!
you guys and Boogie and like I said, I'll show you a picture so you so you know about the guy that I used to be. Um, but yeah, I always end these episodes in the same way by giving a message to the people listening, watching, and to you as well. So I believe in you in every single fucking thing that you do in this life, and I love you. And wherever we go from here is exactly where we're supposed to. So don't take it too seriously. Enjoy yourself. Be real, be honest, and just build exactly whatever you want life to be and enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Abosh.
All right,
Prost.
guys. Scott, thanks again so much. And guys, thanks for the time. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care and be well.